The Middle East is on edge as the war in Israel intensifies. It has been 2 weeks now since the terror group Hamas launched an unprovoked massacre in Israel, killing more than 1,400 Israelis. Thousands of people have also died in Gaza. Joining us live this morning, Ambassador Gerald Feierstein. He is the former ambassador to Yemen. He has worked in the diplomatic corps in the Middle East for over 4 decades and is currently at the Middle East Institute. Ambassador, good to see you again. Unfortunately, it's for not a good reason. When you look at the situation the United States is in right now, how dangerous is this for the United States in that we could be drawn into an even larger conflict?
It's a pleasure to be with you again, Tom. And you're absolutely right. It's a very tricky situation that the U.S. is in. Obviously, we have the Israeli incursion into Gaza, what's going on there. We hear threats from Hezbollah in Lebanon, from Iran, from other Iranian allies. We saw the Houthis in Yemen even trying to perhaps launch some drones and missiles towards Israel. And so the potential for the U.S. To become engaged, to see particularly the need to prevent an expansion of this conflict into a second front against Israel, or even affecting the Gulf region, is very high, and the Biden administration is very concerned about it.
You know, obviously we had this situation where a hospital was struck last week, injuring civilians. Israel said that was not an Israeli move, that was actually the Islamic Jihad that actually launched that attack. But what is, in your view, the tipping point here? When does this become an entire region at war? If Hezbollah is increasing its activity, you know, we spoke to a reporter live from Jerusalem last week that there are very big concerns about what's going on in the West Bank. That puts 3 regions of Israel in play right now of warfare. What is the line from where you declare that just the entire area now is in a wider war?
And an awful lot of that will depend on what the Iranians see as their most advantageous position. So you have the potential for Hezbollah, which is heavily armed, very sophisticated weapons, to get drawn in, but they won't do it if the Iranians don't believe that this is a moment that they can maximize their advantage over Israel. And this is the equation. This is what everybody is looking at. Certainly, as the Israeli invasion into Gaza goes on, presumably as the number of innocent civilian casualties on the Palestinian side goes up, the pressure on the allies of Hamas to come in support of Hamas's activities is going to get worse. So a lot of it has to do with the number of casualties on the Palestinian side, also with the time frame.
You know, at the beginning of this broadcast, Ambassador, we had news that there was aid going into Gaza now, both from Egypt and then some from Turkey as well. Why is it always the United States that seems to have to figure out the situation in the Middle East?
Well, for many years, the United States embraced that position. We took the position that we were the ones who were most well-positioned to try to mediate between Israelis and Palestinians, and we took the lead. Of course, Jimmy Carter took the lead in negotiating the peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. The United States took the lead with Jordan and Israel, and so this is a role that the U.S. saw as one that we should take. We certainly wanted to make sure that adversaries of the United States, particularly Russia, didn't have the opportunity to come in and become the major partner for Middle Eastern states. So this was one that, for strategic reasons as well as tactical reasons, the U.S. wanted to keep to itself.
But let's talk about this situation right now, because, you know, what happened in the Camp David Accords was two nations at one time that were at war with each other, with the United States bringing two independent nations together. You listen to President Biden this past week, you know, it was clear that the United States has thrown all of its support behind Israel because of these terrorist attacks, but you're not dealing with an independent country in Gaza. You're dealing, you know, with a terrorist organization that is holding a piece of land right now. How much more complicated is the situation we're in right now?
Well, I think that we need to look at this as both a short-term and a longer-term issue. In the short term, of course, the Israelis are going to do what they can to root out the Hamas infrastructure in Gaza, to kill or capture Hamas's leaders who are in Gaza. But that, and also, of course, to rescue the hostages that are being held there. But beyond that, there is, of course, the Israeli-Palestinian issue, and that is the issue that really is the trigger for these kinds of violent explosions. The two sides did negotiate. Yeah. There are agreements that exist, the Oslo Accords and others, that lays out a framework.
It's a situation that just does not seem to be able to be resolved in our lifetime as well. Ambassador Gerald Feierstein, we thank you so much for lending us your analysis and your expertise on this. Hope to have you back real soon.